Hello there, Conrad of Commonwealth from here. Breath of the Wild 2 is still some way away, since it is still called the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, so until it is out, let's bring up some gameplay ideas based on confirmed locations, theories, and cool concepts that could make this game stand out from the 2017 Game of the Year. Specifically, we'll cover one gameplay idea for each of the 3 layers in the game: sky, surface, and underground, and maybe switch it up a little bit in different episodes. So be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell, and let's get inside Breath of the Wild 2's gameplay. Sky gameplay, the 5th Divine Beast, Link's Divine Beast, and potentially dragons. Each of the 4 surface champions piloted and died in their Divine Beast during the Great Calamity, leaving it up to Link to free the spirits of the fallen. Nevertheless, despite being on the hero's path, it is often forgotten that Link himself was a champion 100 years ago, so where is his Divine Beast? Let me introduce you to the 5th Divine Beast model found in Hateneo's ancient tech lab, one that might be piloted by Link in the sequel. Clearly based on Levias, the flying whale deity of the sky in Skyward Sword, who in turn was inspired by the mythical Leviathans, and for the first time also referred directly as such in Breath of the Wild. Precisely the skeletons of 3 deceased Leviathans, possibly hinting that they were the descendants of Levias. And who knows, might return to the sky if some time travel is involved in the sequel. After all, as we will soon get back to, the main gimmick of the sequel appears to be time and major combinations. When Link enters the Hateneo Ancient Tech Lab, which was built 100 years ago, we see a miniature of a seemingly unrealized divine beast hanging from the ceiling. A lot of people thought this was the design of a manta ray, especially after seeing a sketch in the 2018 book Creating a Champion, but it isn't it, as that was a concept art for a water-based divine beast. Surprisingly so, the Zelda team deliberately left a smaller ladder in front of the miniature. By standing on it and turning around 180 degrees, you can see the front view of the divine beast, which is none other than Levias. Not only that, in Creating a Champion, you will not find a single mention regarding the miniature, which mind you was clearly present in the game. The missing 5th Divine Beast, and this is where the sequel, set partially in the sky, comes into play. Based on all the arguments we have collected, it is possible that Levias could return in the sequel to Breath of the Wild, either as a 5th Divine Beast or as a divine spirit upon the sky of Hyrule. You know, right up where the dragons were heading in Breath of the Wild. And if the latter comes into fruition at a later point in the game, it wouldn't surprise us if A. Link will have to fight something to claim it, or perhaps complete a set of trials to be allowed to enter it, just like in the case of the other Divine Beasts in Breath of the Wild. And B. Link will pilot it and offer us aerial gameplay with a big gun, just like we did with Revali's Var Meadow in Age of Calamity in 2020. Remember, each Zelda project with a physical release serves a purpose for the next brand new Zelda game, just like Wind Waker HD with its open sea-based gameplay, Twilight Princess large-scale land areas, and Hyrule Warriors narrated cutscenes were key to Breath of the Wild's open-air concepts and voiced cutscenes. Now the time might come for Link to pilot his own divine beast, one that was never corrupted as it was unreachable for Ganon up in the sky. Could you imagine the gameplay possibilities? It could be absolutely empowering, just like crushing tens of enemies with one beam strike was in Age of Calamity's brief, but oh so engaging Divine Beast sections. But let's get out of the clouds and down to the ground and this episode's gameplay idea for the middle layer of the sequel. Surface gameplay, time manipulation side quests, and minigames. This surface is a tricky one as it is an existing template. So many questlines need to be replaced, ranging from shrines, side quests, all the way to the most minor minigames, and even Korok seeds. Or at the very least, altered. Since how are we going to properly play Boom Bam Golf and everyone's favorite snowball bowling without the Sheikah Slate? The Hand of Time naturally, but it works in different ways. Not freezing objects, but rather reversing their trajectory based on their timeline. This alone creates new opportunities never seen before in the Zelda series, and it could serve so many purposes outside at most 5 minutes breaks for this massive epic. It could absolutely redefine the way we solve everything, including puzzles, and no one has made it more clear than Monster Maze in his videos. What the Zelda team is preparing is no less than a mechanic that will make the Sheikah Slate pale in comparison, in particular if time reversal is only the first of multiple time-related powers. Breath of the Wild's main one-title gameplay gimmick seems to have been physics, but the sequel's main gimmick is time. so expect the existing open air to be reinvented in all sorts of ways for completing tasks. Only that time doesn't change for us, and we don't have any Xenoblade-like foresight. And there will still be rules to follow, even if this will break the surface we know and love even more than what we have seen up to this point. At the same time, it is worth mentioning that Tarry Town lacked minigames, and Lurelin Village, likely a very crucial settlement in the sequel, had a very underwhelming one in the chest game. There's so much that can be extended and added to and improved for the sequel, as we have had better side quests and minigames in past Zelda games before Breath of the Wild, including on the gameplay front. We have to remember that not everything Breath of the Wild did was better than we already had in the Zelda series up to this point. And in this case, it is clear that this sequel serves a greater purpose, namely to listen to what more and more people say, embrace the future, but also don't throw away what is worth keeping from the past, but enhance it. Hence why we hope the Zelda team has brought over some more from their vault for the sequel of combinations, which needs even more combinations of the greatest from the series past to reinvent the surface that we have been exploring for at least 6 years when the gates to the final open world Zelda Switch game is released. Not only that, but involving time manipulation. Now then, let's head over to the final place that was not present in Breath of the Wild, which we naturally have not played through, which could be filled with surprises. But I think we should start a little bit simple with a gameplay feature which may not be as influential, but definitely fun. Underground gameplay, proper minecarts. Underground sections are linear as you need an entrance and an exit, hence why they placed the Sheikah shrines in Breath of the Wild right here. But with the sequel, it is more likely that instead of a tiny box, you might get a tunnel and a cave system that looks more like this. Breath of the Wild had minecarts, but did absolutely nothing meaningful with them apart from skipping some enemies or reaching a certain shrine in Elden. They were the perfect example of a cool gameplay concept that was never fully realized with proximity bomb rooms. While in the sequel we have the underground, and as we all know from Indiana Jones and the Donkey Kong Country series, man-made mines often have minecarts. Some of them are driven by electricity, just like when I was exiting the world-famous salt mines in Wieliczka, Poland, also known as the underground city of salt, while others are wild gravity-driven rides, just like the minecart section of Skyward Sword, one of the best mandatory minigames in the Zelda series. With Link clearly confirmed to be fighting on the ground by this brief gameplay sequence, and Princess Zelda potentially being trapped and playable in certain underground sections, why not evolve the fun but stiff minecart of Breath of the Wild into something more adventurous? You know, giving steering options like in Skyward Sword, but also use the minecarts much like in Donkey Kong to crush foes, and just like in Indiana Jones' Temple of Doom, fight foes in a different minecart from your minecart before jumping over missing rail sections. A true action sequence which will be both memorable and could after the mandatory section of the game be turned into a true minigame, which the minecarts never got in Breath of the Wild. After all, what should a sequel be doing? Take the original, look at what was not fully realized, and then turn that lost potential into reality. And what would be the perfect use for Breath of the Wild's minecarts? Fast-paced, gravity-based, multi-track, non-linear minecart chases and action sequences instead of a single track and short-section bomb room-based rides is absolutely the way to go with this sequel. Why? Because fast-paced minecarts with action and room to fail are fun. Not only that, it could be hilarious to see both Link and Zelda balancing their way through tunnels and grottos while fighting some underworld creature in a minecart opposite to them. Underground gameplay can be dark, dull, and linear, or with the concept we have outlined taken straight from Indiana Jones, you have guaranteed excitement no matter how early or late in the game these sections take place. In fact, having man-carved underground caves without a cart ride would be a letdown and a major lost opportunity. The reason for it is simple: we need more of this, but underground, and less of this. It is simple fun that will fit short underground sections, whether we are in the sandals of our hero Link or in the shoes of Princess Zelda perfectly. The Zelda team have nailed this concept in the past, so all they need to do is combine the minecarts of Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild, place it properly on the ground, add parallel tracks, and voila, another perfect combination for the sequel of combination. And those are our first 3 gameplay ideas, one each for the sky, surface, and underground for this new gameplay video series tied to the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And then we will see how long we have to wait for actual gameplay instead of gameplay concepts. Also, with this series, we are more than open to gameplay suggestions in the comment section down below, and the best ones could make it into future episodes with a solid shout out to the one who suggested the idea. But remember, one for the sky, one for the surface, and one for underground. If you haven't already, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press that notification bell to share this video to more people, and to not miss any future episodes of Inside Breath of the Wild 2 gameplay, as we continue on the waiting path for the 20th Zelda title. Last but not least, a big thanks goes to you for watching, and to all our patreon.com/commonaround patrons, and in particular to royal producer Charles Shash for making all of this possible. You rock, and please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.